How's it going, guys? And welcome to Underneath My Layout. What I'm doing today, I'm installing a few Tortoise switch machines. So I thought I would take you along with the journey and show you how I'm going to do the last one here. Okay guys, welcome back. So really not a lot of rocket science here. What I'm doing is installing my Tortoise switch motors. And what we have here is some used ones that I bought off of eBay. So the main thing you need to know here, basically the outside here, this is where your power goes. Now I'm not going to show you how to wire the switches right now. I'll do that later on when I show you a panel tutorial. But for now, all you need to know is your double pole, double throw switch. When it comes on these outside terminals, it can be positive, negative this way, and then when you throw that switch, it's positive, negative this way. It just switches back and forth, which makes the motor go back and forth. So I've already put on some new leads here, and basically I've made them long enough to go back to my switch control panel. As far as color goes, I'm just using green to match the tortoises. You can use any color you want. To me, it doesn't really matter positive and negative because it switches, and I kind of do it the old-fashioned way, so I'm going to show you in a little bit how that works. So first thing, when you're installing the turnout on the layout, basically what you want to do is find the center of the throw bar. So I basically have my track center line. I put the turnout over top, and then I mark where that throw bar goes. Now with these Atlas number 6s, the throw bar seems to throw about 3/16 of an inch. So I like to give a little wiggle room for the hole. So basically find the center and then drill the hole a little bigger. So I believe the hole that I did was around 3/8 of an inch. So that gives a nice amount of room, and honestly when everything's all ballasted and even when the turnout's over top, you can't really see the hole at all. So next thing what we're going to want to do is go under the layout where we are right now, and I'm going to show you how it looks from underneath. So here's how it looks from underneath, folks. Now if you look up in there, you can see that little hole. That is the center of the throw bar in the Atlas turnout. So that's where our basically our throw wire is going to go into. So the first thing we want to do is basically clean off all of this grossness here from the tear out from the drill bit. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And just like that, we are now ready to install our Tortoise switch machine. Okay, so what I'm using to mount these machines is number 6 5/8 Robertson pan head screws like this. So Robertson is your square, you can see it there. I like to use these because they tend to hold in the bit the best. They hold a little better than Phillips, and when you're doing this yourself, that's definitely a huge help. Now the original installer that had these, like I said, these were used, he had two-sided tape. Two-sided tape I'd say to use if you have like a foam subbase, but I have plywood. Now a lot of people say not to use screws on these, but for me, as you're going to see, they hold, they're easy, I don't see the problem with it. If you do have problems holding this screw on the drill, you could mark the turnout, put it up, mark it, and then pre-drill and then use a screwdriver, but I don't see why you'd use two-sided tape unless you had a foam base. Next thing we're going to do here, before we prep it, we're going to take the turnout motor and we're going to place this in the middle. Just like that. So that's our center point, and now next we are going to look up in here and line it up with the hole and stick it on in. So I can see the hole myself. I've got it. Now what I'm going to do, I know that that throw bar is going this way, back and forth this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the machine. I'm going to make sure that it's centered on the hole, and I'm going to move the machine towards me as far as I can go, and I can move it away from me, and now I know where that throw bar is thrown full tilt both ways. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to feel it out. Okay, that's one way, here's the other way, and I'm just going to eyeball center, and we're ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my number 1 Robertson bit and I'm going to throw it onto my drill. And as you can see, this is why I like Robertson screws. They stay on there. See that? Makes it a lot easier when you're doing it yourself. Okay, so we're underneath, we are set, and I am ready to go. So I've got my drill, I've got the screw, and as you can see, I've just got one hand. I'm going to, a little bit of firm pressure, nice and easy. Not too much, because we don't want it to break the plastic. I've got my first screw in there, if you can see. As you can see, it's a little awkward. Our second one. Now this is why I get asked a lot, especially in the construction industry, why I like normal drills and not impacts. Well, this is why. When you're doing doors and stuff, impacts are notorious for stripping screws, breaking things. That's I still like the old-fashioned normal drill, just like this. There we go. Now the number 6, once again, the reason why I'm using that, it seems to fit in the slot of the Tortoise perfectly. Anything bigger, like a number 8, you're definitely going to crack that plastic and break it off. It's probably why people recommend not to use screws on Tortoise machines, but if you're using the number 6, no problem at all. So, there she is. Now it's time to wire it. Okay, first things first, I'm just going to send my wires. Now, like I said before, I've already pre-cut these, I've already pre-measured and tacked them onto the machine. So I've got this hole right here that my signal line is going through, my signal line to my DCC system. So I'm just going to use that and feed these through over towards my panel. Now, something to know, on the back of my panel, which I'm going to show you in a minute here, I don't mark polarity, and the reason is I find by the time you do that and by the time you figure out which way the turnout needs to throw, it can be so confusing, and by the time you go through all that trouble, chances are you're going to get it backwards anyway. So I really literally do the KISS method, keep it simple stupid, do touch and go, attach them, see if it works. If it doesn't, flip it around and off you go. It's not going to hurt anything. It's the same thing as you're just switching the polarity anyways. It's doing nothing different, no harm, no foul, won't cause you any problems. So I'm going to show you that right now, how I do that. So guys, here we go. This is what the back of my panel looks like. From back here, nothing fancy, nothing special. And I know right here, this is the wires from my double pole, double throw switch, which like I said, I'll show how to do that on a later video. But here they are. Now I know this is them for sure because it's my last turnout off of this panel. So here's the wire, one wire. Here is our wire coming from the switch machine. So I literally just go like this, a couple turns just to test. And we're going to grab our other one. Couple turns, and I'm only doing this like this because chances are we could have it backwards, and we don't want to go too tight, so we can take it off easily if we need to. So let's do our first test. Okay guys, so we are up top, or out front I should say, and here's our panel, and this is the switch right here that we've just wired. Now like I said, I'm going to show later on how to do this panel, but here we go. Here's our test, so you can hear it in the background going. Now what I've done, I'm using 9 volts. You can go up to 12, but 12 tends to run it too fast and it's a little bit too much power. I've tried different voltages, but searching it online, everybody seems to say 9 volt works. So that's what I'm using, is just a little 9 volt transformer for this entire panel. That transformer powers all these LEDs. So basically I've dropped in layman's terms, for these LEDs, I've dropped from 9 volts down to 3 volts for the LEDs, and then straight 9 volts runs to the machines. So now let's go check if our throw's right. So here we go, we're going straight. Let's go over to the turnout and see if we've got it wired correctly. So as you can see, folks, good thing I didn't go through all the trouble of trying to find the right polarity and trying to get it, because I've got it backwards anyways. So all I do, go underneath really quick, switch those wires around, and we're good to go. So let's go do that. Okay guys, so that's why I said don't do these too tight. That way I can just take this and unhook it like that. Now, right now I want to be careful not to mix these up. There, as you can see, just falls apart. Now I know I've got the polarity correct. So what I do, I just spin them together like that and fold down flat. So it looks like that. And let's do the other one. Now, if you wanted to get really hardcore, I know a lot of people, now you can hear the machine going there. So now we know it's going and throwing to the correct position with this polarity. Now, a lot of people would take this and solder it. I don't think you need to go that hardcore. I mean, nobody's going to be under here. It's going to be all blocked off. I basically just go like that. Then what I do is I take a bit of electrical tape. Now, like I said, people can go really hardcore with this. They will sometimes use shrink wrap, and I do that once in a while, but for this application I just don't think it's really necessary. But you could, if you want, you could use heat shrink tubing. You could use that liquid electrical tape that I've showed you on a past video, but this is all I do for this sort of thing. This way, if I did need to access it or add on to it or change something, it's really simple to just take it off and work on it. So there's that. Here is the other one. And that's it. All connected, ready to go. Okay, now let's do our final test. So here we go. We're going to go into the diverging route. You can hear the turnout throw. Let's go over and check it. Beautiful. As you can see, we're in the diverging route. Now that we've done a few tests and that we are happy with how the turnout throws, we're now going to cut this off. You could use a Dremel, but I like to just use my flush cut nippers here. Now these are extremely hard to cut. It's really hard wire, but one thing, a word of caution, I'm going to say put your hand over top to catch it, because it's going to fly off. It's either going to go into your eye or it's going to fly off onto the floor and go into your foot. You definitely don't want that. So nice and flush, hand over, and lots of pressure to get it to cut. There she goes. As you can see, it takes quite a bit of pressure to get that to cut, but I caught it in my hand. There's the piece right there. Definitely do not want that in your eye or on the floor to go into your foot. So that's it, folks. It's all done. Hopefully you liked it. As you can see, she stays nice and tight. No problems there whatsoever. That's it. We'll see you on the next one. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.